Welcome to the Living Lighter show. I am your host, Sally Thibault. Today we're talking finding the confidence to speak your truth. Let's go. Welcome to the Living Lighter show this morning. I hope you are in for a good show this morning. A topic that I see coming up a lot for many women, and this is finding the confidence to speak your truth. Now, today, I just want to do a little bit of a disclaimer straight up. Remember, this show is just for general knowledge for your purposes. If the show triggers you in any way in particular, or you feel unsafe, you feel physically unsafe to speak your truth, I'm just going to pop some numbers up here. In Australia, 1-800-737-732, North America, 1-800-799-7233, and in the UK, 0808-2000-247. Those are the numbers to reach out to if you are feeling unsafe. Remember, this show is about general knowledge. We're not kind of, if you're in a physical situation where you feel worried about your physical health, please reach out to those numbers. And as you pop on this morning, just say hi. Good morning, Debbie. Nice to see you here. Good morning, Trish. Thank you. Good morning, Margaret. Love to see you here. What a week it's been. Can you honestly believe we are talking mid-August? Today is the 15th of August. Slap dang bang in the middle of it. Interesting year, hasn't it been? All right. I see this coming up a lot, this finding the confidence to speak your truth. Can I just tell you, this is the most liberating thing you will ever do in your life, is finally stepping into the real you to speak your truth. So today I'm going to go through some things that can help if you are struggling to speak your truth. I'm going to give you some guidelines. We'll also share at the end how your personality profile actually impacts on your ability to speak your truth and what to do about it. And of course, we're going to end with the tapping session today to help you in times that you might want to, just have this with you whenever you're placed in a situation where you want to speak up, speak your truth. You might use EFT to help you with that. I also recommend to all my clients meditation. Really using some meditation as well to help calm you, to give you the confidence. All right, let's move on to the show. So the old stories about not speaking your truth run deep. There are times when you may have been told as a child, who do you think you are? What would you know? You may have situations when you were in school where you asked a question and the teacher ridiculed you. Maybe you stood up to make a statement and it was wrong, and the kids ridiculed you. So you want to, if you're struggling to speak your truth, see if you can find some old stories where speaking your truth made you feel vulnerable. And I posted in the Facebook group and here on Instagram yesterday, wonderful quote from Brene Brown, where she talks about courage is about being vulnerable. And vulnerability requires confidence in order to be vulnerable. And it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And as women, our vulnerability is actually our superpower. Because you know what it's like when you get together with girlfriends and you can just share what's going on. You know the joy that comes from that. You know that lightness of being that it feels like when you can be who you truly are. That's what we're aiming for in Living Lighter, is to be that aspect of you all the time. I know I have a group of friends, and when we get together, we just talk and laugh and drink wine. Every time I walk away from being with them, I just feel elevated. And that's because with this particular group of friends, I can truly be myself, and I can be myself with my husband and my family too. But do you know what I'm talking about? It's that elevation, that lightness that you feel. That's what you want to aim to feel most times. So the biggest challenge, though, to speaking our truth is being invested in the outcome. When I'm, chatting with Jerry or talking with the kids or being with my friends, I'm not invested in an outcome when I speak my truth. That's just the way it is. You may not agree with me. I probably may not agree with you either. But that's not the point of speaking your truth. Sometimes when we speak our truth, we are invested in an outcome. We want someone to change. We want someone to see things differently. And that's not the purpose of speaking your truth at all. The purpose of speaking your truth is for you to feel the confidence and the strength to, we have a saying in our family, get the monkey off your back. When you speak your truth and you can stand in that strength and confidence, it's like this lightness comes over you. But if you're attached to the outcome, if you want somebody to do something different, think some way different, that's where you often are disappointed. Because that's not the point of speaking your truth. Your point of speaking your truth is to speak your truth. What other people think of you is absolutely none of your business. So sometimes we can get really hung up on, I'm going to speak my truth because I want to blame you, make you wrong, make you change your mind, make you do something different. That's not the point. We often, as mothers, get kind of a bit hung up on this when we'll hang on to things and sort of, blow our stack. And we're wanting people to change, kids to clean up their rooms or whatever. And they often don't until you blow your stack. But then it'll go back and they'll do exactly the same thing a week later. The challenge for you is to speak your truth and stand in that truth with confidence and not let the boundaries down. But speaking your truth and getting to the point where you're so upset about it isn't good for anybody. So let me go through a series of questions. First of all, what do you want? When you're speaking your truth, what do you want? You have to know what you want. Okay, I'm choosing to speak my truth because I need to get this off my chest. I'm choosing to speak my truth because I want to create those boundaries. But if you choosing to speak your truth to invest it in that other person changing, you'll be disappointed. And remember, speaking your truth is about your heart, coming from your heart. If others want to change, then that's great. But you're not going to force them to do that. You can't. But you speaking your truth, what you will and you won't put up with, is about you creating your boundaries. There's a thing about speaking your truth that I find sometimes we get invested in. And it's often this fear of what the other person is going to think of you. The thing is, when you start speaking your truth, sometimes other people don't like it. They're not going to like it, especially if you're the type of person who hasn't spoken your truth in the past. Because they're invested in the way you are at the present time. And when you decide to change, they're like, whoa, hold on a minute. This isn't what I invested in. This isn't the you I know. And so they may start to say things like, are you okay? Are you feeling all right? Really? Where'd you come up with that? Or the classic, you're being a bit selfish. When you want to change, this is about you. And really letting go of that need to change somebody else is exceptionally important. So the second thing to ask is, what is the old story that you're telling yourself? What's the old story you're telling yourself about speaking your truth? And again, going back to what I talked about at the beginning, where, have you been told that you don't know what you're talking about, or what right do you think you have? Or, of course, that big one being selfish. So what's that old story you're telling yourself about speaking your truth? And has there been fear along the way, ridicule along the way? Because, if you don't know what you want to begin with, you don't know what the outcome is that you want, then you'll fall back into that old pattern of the old story. Because confidence comes from speaking your truth, not the other way around. You don't become confident and then speak your truth. You speak your truth and then you feel confident. It's like when people, one of my, when I do a one-word theme for the year, and when I'm working with clients, and if they choose the word courage, for instance, as the one-word theme, I go, whoa, just be careful, because if you choose the word courage, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get heaps of opportunities during the year to step up and be courageous. You can't be courageous and then expect that you're going to be, that it's just going to happen. Opportunities will present themselves to you so you can be courageous. Same thing with speaking your truth. Confidence comes from it. Confidence comes from speaking your truth, not the other way around. So don't wait for the confidence to suddenly arrive. It's not going to happen. We're going to do some EFT at the end of this too, by the way, to help you through that. This is one of my favorites, to develop the win-win or no deal attitude. Make it okay to not agree. It's okay to not agree. And when you get invested in having somebody else agree with you, then all you're doing is getting frustrated and annoyed because they're not agreeing with you. I love this. This is habit number 4. Yeah, it's habit number 4 of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If anybody hasn't read this or studied this, it's a fabulous. I studied this, it could be 12, 13 years ago. I studied the 7 Habits. I was involved in a long-term program studying the implications of the 7 Habits. And this is one of my favorites, is develop a win-win or no deal and make it okay not to agree. Do you know, one of the things I hate, the terminology I hate is compromise. Because in my experience, compromise always and most often means that the woman loses. In my experience, in many aspects of relationships, and not only just primary relationships, but business relationships, compromise often means women step back. I prefer to use the word empowered collaboration. So we're having a disagreement about something. I don't like this and you don't like that. Okay, we agree. How do we create an empowered collaboration here so both of us feels that we're not walking away not being heard and not being valued? And you can disagree on this aspect and I can disagree on that aspect, and it's okay. But I've been heard and you've been heard. I've spoken my truth, you've spoken your truth. And that's in that gap in the middle is where you create the win-win or no deal. So the empowered collaboration. How can we make this work? It's really important to not get into lay blame and justifying all the time. But, that whole concept of when I speak my truth, I want to know that I'm being heard. And when that other person is speaking their truth, I want to listen too. Okay, I get where you're coming from. That's speaking your truth. It's about creating the empowered collaboration and you feeling confident enough. And often when we speak our truth, what we're angry about is we're not being heard. Doesn't matter about being right or wrong. It's because we're not being heard. In fact, I remember Oprah Winfrey saying of the 3,500 show she hosted, the number one thing above anything else was that people wanted to feel like they were heard. And that's what speaking your truth is all about. You want to feel like you're being heard. So I just want to go on to this last one, and then I'm going to get to any questions and comments. So let go of the attachment to the outcome. What somebody thinks of you is none of your business. We get into this thing about we want people to like us, to accept us, to love us. And so we will hold back on speaking our truth for fear of being rejected, criticized. And that pain goes really deep. And that's where going back to those earlier stories, what's that old story you're telling yourself about being rejected, comes up. Let go of the attachment to the outcome. When I speak my truth, I simply want to be heard. I don't care whether you agree with me or not. That's not my job. My job's not to agree with me. My job's to ensure that I'm heard. And that's a thing to go back to. If you're speaking your truth, you say, or you need to say, I don't think you're hearing me. I just want to be heard. And then you can leave it up to where it needs to go. All right, before we get into the next part, which is how the personality types work, I'm just going to get onto some of these comments. Where are we? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Morning, Deborah. Kathy, love meditation, great calming and listening to what my truth is and seeking guidance. Yeah, absolutely, Kathy. And at this stage of our lives, we have enough truth and guidance and wisdom. We know what we want. We haven't come this far down the evolutionary path to not know what we want and not being able to listen to our own guidance. I just think that's one of the great things about being the age I am, is that we have the runs on the board to know what we want and have the wisdom, the experience. Deborah, my son. Oh, yes, absolutely. Deborah, number one area I need to work on, need to speak my truth to heal my heart. Debbie, I love that. Beautiful. Absolutely. I really love that. Yes, Deborah, I can hear you. I can hear what you're saying. I love the 7 habits. He doesn't think I've sharpened my sword. Yep. I guess that's another issue, Deb, is that you just speak your truth. You just speak your truth and keep speaking your truth. I know the situation you're in, and just keep speaking your truth. Over compromising. Yeah, I know, Debbie, it's a thing we do, women fall into that habit of over compromising all the time. It's a natural thing for us, I think, too. We want to create harmony and peace, and that's, we kind of settle back. But often when I think of compromising, I think of my mom and that generation where really sometimes they didn't have a choice. You got married and you had babies and you stayed home. There was no choice, and husband brought the money in and you just do what you're told, really. He won't agree to disagree. Yeah, well, that's amazing, isn't it? Deborah, I would just look around. I know in your situation what's going on. So it's just, you have to just keep telling the truth. That's just all it is. And hopefully this thing will turn around. I know exactly what's going on. Hey, good morning, Dee. Love to have you on the call. Margaret, love getting older. I'm growing into my truth. Beautiful, Margaret. Love it. And letting go, yes, of the attachment. Absolutely, Margaret. We've got to let go of that attachment. It's not our responsibility. It's like, it's like right now there's so much dissension. And what Deborah's just talking about, referring to different people with different views currently right now, what's going on. The fear narrative and all that stuff. And I heard a great quote. I follow a woman called Elizabeth Peru. I don't know if you follow her. She's Elizabeth Peru, Peru, as in the country. She's fantastic. And every time I think something, up pop a blog post from her, and it's just exactly what I'm thinking about. But what she talked about is that right now, with everything going on, we need people to feel to work on themselves, to kind of, every time you get caught up in the anger or the trying to make somebody else right or wrong, it's your power that dies. It's your immune system that's compromised. And by trying to make other people wrong and getting caught up in all that, as Kathy said before, we step out of the guidance because we get caught up in the emotion of it. And when you get caught up in the emotion, you're triggered. We're all triggered. I know, working with my husband after being together for almost 40 years, it's challenging at times. But I know that whenever we're talking about something in the business and I'm being triggered, I have to catch myself and go back to, what's he triggering in me? And oftentimes he's triggering when I was criticized by something in the past. So I've got to go to that EFT, meditation, getting aligned with what I'm feeling, where I'm feeling that I've been criticized in the past. That's my response. My job is to keep myself sovereign. That's my job. My job is to speak my truth without the attachment at the outcome, to not get triggered, because when you get triggered by it, then you lose the ability to look at things objectively. And right now, there is so much dissension and so much information and so many arguments, and everybody's got an opinion. That's fine. That's fine, because everybody's got to get to the part where they believe themselves. And I know myself, and put my hand up here, I've got to stop going down rabbit holes sometimes. I know what I believe. My role is to keep myself and my family healthy. And I'm a bit of a, much like you, Deborah, a bit of a, broken record about, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, exercise, get outside in the sunshine. Vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, get outside, don't eat processed foods. Like this feedback loop in my children's head at the moment. I just keep saying it. And they'll roll their eyes and they'll carry on. I'm just going to keep saying it. I'm just going to keep saying it. That's what it is. That's what I believe. But we take responsibility for our own health. And so I'm getting a little bit off the track here. Just get a couple of these. Morning, Chisrani. Lovely to have you here. Thank you. And so true. All right, let's get on to our, lovely to join us, Chisrani. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about personality type, shall we? And how you're triggered. Okay, number one, achievers. When you're speaking your truth, your biggest challenge is acknowledgement, because you like self-recognition, a recognition from others. So often with an achiever, we get really hung up, because I'm an achiever, we get really hung up on, if somebody doesn't agree with me, is obviously they're not acknowledging me. And so we'll tend to get caught up in lay, blame, justify, you haven't done, blah, 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 blah. With an achiever, it needs to pull back and keep in those words, I feel. Right now, I feel overwhelmed. Right now, I feel nobody is supporting me. Right now, I feel that I need to create more boundaries. So achievers, biggest challenge for you is when you're triggered is when you're not being acknowledged. You feel like you're being criticized. And that's where speaking your truth can become quite volatile. You get upset by it. Socializers, your biggest challenge in speaking your truth is you like to create harmony. Socializers love social interaction and connection. And so you will often not speak your truth because you don't want to upset the apple cart of that kind of lovely, harmonious, everybody get along kind of impact. And so you'll often kind of go, oh, well, we won't talk about it now. Let's just everybody have a nice glass of wine or a cup of tea. We'll talk about it later. Meanwhile, you're kind of festering stuff if you can't speak your truth. Because of that, people tend to take a little bit of advantage of you too, because they know that you love to sort of create harmony in the house. So they can tend to take a bit of advantage of you. Peacemakers, your biggest challenge, peacemakers, is avoiding conflict. You hate conflict. And the other thing with peacemakers is that you often need time to speak your truth. So for you, you'll kind of step back. You need to think in your head. You need time to process information. And so for a peacemaker, speaking your truth of everybody on this personality profile, this is probably the hardest thing for you because you don't like conflict at all. Stress levels rise really quickly. As I said, you need time. So for peacemakers, you need to if you need to speak your truth, make sure you're very clear on what you want. You're very clear on the words, I just want to be heard. You're very clear on letting go of the attachment to outcome and creating those boundaries for yourself. And for our competitors, I'm not sure we have any of those on the call today because very few of those actually come to counselling and coaching because they're just high energy people. But their biggest challenge for competitors is understanding somebody else's point of view. A competitor often, if somebody's speaking, they've already got an answer going on in their heads. So they'll tend to create disharmony around them, competitors. So it's important for a competitor type personality to understand that other people actually have different points of view, and that's okay. And that's okay. All right, if you haven't done the quiz yet, you wonder what we're talking about, just head over to www.sallythibault.com.au/quiz. That's just QUIZ. To do the personality profile quiz. Gives you an understanding of where your energy levels lie, where you can sometimes be impacted when other people challenge you to speak your truth. All right, and of course, always, if you're struggling with anything, please feel free to reach out for a strategy session with me. It's free, and you can. Oh, where am I? I'm sorry, I'm just getting off the beaten track here. I was just going to pop it into the questions. I'm going to get back to those a moment. So if you need to have a chat, quickly. Good morning, Elle. Lovely to have you here. Debbie Magella, healthy alternative to life. Yep. Exactly. So just healthy alternatives all the time. Whatever everybody else thinks, none of our business. Looking after yourself is number one all the time. All right, let's quickly do a tapping session, Cam, because we're 3 minutes to go. We're going to get a little over this morning. I hope that's okay with you guys. Let's tap on feeling unheard, shall we? And again, whenever we're doing this EFT session, remember what we're trying to find are those aspects, those times in your life where you felt unsafe in speaking your truth. And it could be, for most of us, it will be numerous times. For most of us growing up in a different era to what we're growing up in now, or our kids grow up in now, we were put down, we were silenced, we were, I grew up going to an all-girls Catholic school, lots of bitchiness, and the nuns weren't great either, just quietly. Whenever you want to speak your truth, it took a great deal of courage. So you have to find all those aspects and collapse all of them whenever you're feeling triggered. I'm going to use the words, it feels uncomfortable and I'm not feeling heard. Let's go, shall we? Ooh, good morning to everybody. All right, here we go. Even though when I try to speak my truth, it feels uncomfortable and uncertain, I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though stepping up to speak my truth feels so unknown, I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though I know I often try to be right and I get triggered, I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Tapping. I feel so unheard. Speaking my truth feels uncomfortable. I can feel my stress levels rise. It feels uncomfortable. I'm worried I'll be rejected. I'm worried I'll be criticized. It feels uncomfortable. There's some fear around it. Speaking my truth feels so unknown. I'm not sure I can do it confidently. I can feel my stress levels rise. I can feel my anxiety rise. There's some fear around it. It feels uncomfortable. I know I'm being triggered. It feels uncomfortable. Okay, just take a deep breath and let it go. Now, as memories are popping up for you of times that you tried to speak your truth in the past or thought you were right and you've been criticized or judged or whatever, write all those down. You've got to tap on all those, remember. Tap on all those to collapse them. You want to speak your truth with confidence. And let's go quickly to a reframe. Remember, don't try this until you get all the other stuff down. I just want to end this right for you. Even though I'm not yet used to speaking my truth, I choose to trust myself. Even though I know I feel triggered sometimes, I choose to release the attachment to the outcome. Even though speaking my truth still feels uncomfortable, I choose to honor myself. Here we go. I choose to speak my truth with confidence. I choose to release the attachment to the outcome. I choose to honor myself. I choose to feel heard. I choose to speak my truth with confidence. I choose to release the attachment to the outcome. I choose to honor myself and my sovereignty. I choose to speak my truth with confidence. Okay, just take a deep breath and let it go. All right. How did you go? Let me know how you went with that. If you're struggling at all, remember, check in and have a strategy session with me, and let me see if and how I can help you. But can I just end the show by saying this? When you learn to speak your truth without attachment to the outcome and focus on just being heard, everything changes. Everything changes. It's not your job to change somebody else's opinion. It's just your job to speak your truth and live with your confidence and sovereign self. That's our job right now. Okay. Thank you, Shathrani. Thank you, and welcome to Thank you for joining the show today. And my love to everybody. You're welcome, Margaret. And have a great, fabulous day, everybody. Great weekend. And I shall see you this time next week for the Living Lighter Show. See you then. Bye for now. You're welcome, Deborah. Bye.